The people, the headlines, the issues impacting you and your family this week in Cincinnati on 9 on Your Side.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Cincinnati. Today, we're taking a close look at several issues affecting our community. The streetcar and the proposed sales tax increase for Metro. But first, child poverty. Our region ranks 4th nationally for child poverty. It's estimated nearly half of children here are below the federal poverty level. And that's according to the National Center for Children in Poverty. In Hamilton County, nearly 55,000 children are poor. Hundreds of people last year attended a summit on how to best end child poverty. It's a complicated issue. More than 60% of those children are in homes with at least one working parent. And now we're getting some help. A nearly $4 million grant from federal money. The money will go to strategies to end homelessness and Lighthouse Youth Services. And joining us now to talk about all of this are Kevin Flynn. He is the president and CEO of Strategies to End Homelessness. Jason Pratt is the Chief Operating Officer for Lighthouse Youth Services, and Jack Thurling, its Planning and Policy Coordinator. Also, I'm joined by WCPR reporter Lucy May, who has reported extensively on the issues of poverty in our community. Thanks to everyone for taking a little time to come in.
Thanks so much.
All right, let's start here. We're talking $3.9 million. It sounds like such a huge amount of money. How do you take that money and effectively use it, get your arms around it? Is it a difficult thing?
Part of what is nice about this additional funding we received from HUD is that we have some flexibility in how we can use it. And actually, the first thing that we're supposed to do is take 5 or 6 months to come up with a plan for how we can most strategically and cost effectively use these dollars. Lighthouse already has a plan in place for ending youth homelessness by 2020. But without necessarily having all the resources to put behind that plan. So this will be a serious infusion of resource for that purpose. So we will start from updating that plan and sort of go from there. But this has more flexibility than the money that we normally receive from the federal government.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the strongest pieces of this project is that we have a 6-month planning period, and we are reimbursed for that time. So typically, you'll get a piece of this grant, you'll get some money, and they'll say, okay, this is the date, and you go live, and this happens. And so there's a lot of pressure to sort of make some quick decisions. We actually have the luxury of being able to get together with our community partners, to get together with our team, Jack's team, and kind of examine what is our best course of action. How can we have the biggest impact with these dollars? Because although $3.9 million sounds like a lot, the need is great, and so we have to be very smart about how we apply that.
Let's talk about that need. We touched on it, certainly, but how big is the problem of homelessness for children in our community?
Well, I think the issue isn't what people think of. So, we work on homelessness for people of all ages. So I know that the perception is that homelessness is all old people, when the reality is that 57% of our homeless population locally is under the age of 35, 40% is under the age of 25, 27% is under the age of 18. So homelessness really nowadays really is very much an issue of youth, depending on how young you're looking at. And we benefit greatly from having an organization like Lighthouse in our community that specifically focuses on youth.
Yeah, and we have a wide continuum of care at Lighthouse. So we have crisis shelters, we have therapeutic services, we have residential centers, and just Lighthouse alone last year had over 5,000 admits into our programs. On the streets of Cincinnati right now, research shows that there are over 2,000 minors who are dealing with homelessness as we speak. And so we may see a person from time to time, or we may hear a story, but when you're dealing with this day in and day out, you truly see that this is something that is affecting everybody across Cincinnati and across the Ohio Valley in very, very large numbers. We've seen an increase in those numbers as the opiate epidemic has increased, as disruptions in the home. The most recent numbers are that 1 in 11 children in Cincinnati will come in contact with children's services in some way before they turn 18.
That's a remarkable statistic.
It's amazing. And so it really pulls back the veil on this idea that it just sort of happens sometimes, or yes, we know there are families that are dealing with this. There are a lot of people who are dealing with this. This is all of our problem. This is not an isolated situation.
And how old are the typical youths that you're dealing with at Lighthouse for your different shelters and programs?
At Lighthouse, we serve everything from birth until the age of 24 now, but the concentration is actually between the ages of 12 and 18 is sort of where we do a lot of our work. Now that's changed, and it is changing because we see the 18 to 24-year-old population really increasing. We've had some legislation that's been passed that kind of recognizes the fact that, okay, that all the problems don't go away just because you turn 18 and you're an adult. As a matter of fact, the problems can actually increase increase because now you have some responsibilities and now you have some resources that are pulled away. So we've expanded a lot of our services into age 24, but the concentration is really 13 to 18.
And as it relates to these monies, this grant, will that apply to children up to the age of 25, 24?
Correct. 16 to 25 is sort of the target area for this specific grant, which is great because, as Kevin was talking about, it sort of expands that perspective from an adult issue, and we'll just offer some services for children as needed to. Okay, we need to look at homelessness in the broad spectrum and how it affects across all age groups.
And a big push both locally and nationally around homelessness is to reduce the number of people who become chronically homeless. So, the beauty of these new resources is the fact that if we can help youth not be homeless anymore, then those young homeless people don't become old homeless people, and we get them out of the system more efficiently and have them hopefully never come back into the system.
And that's a great point, Kevin, because when we started this a long time ago, the idea was we need to find beds. Right? And so homelessness, if they have somewhere to sleep and it's safe, then you're good, right? But at Lighthouse, we really took this focus on ending youth homelessness by the year 2020. And what we discovered as soon as we took that track, if you will, is that if you want to really address homelessness, you have to address the issues that precipitate and that lead to homelessness. So we're talking about mental health issues, we're talking about addiction issues, we're talking about housing, of course, life skills issues, education, and family therapy. Right? We were working with Director Weir at JFS, and their big focus is how do we engage the families, because what we've seen is if you keep a child safe, that's great for that period of time, but what happens after those services end, and what have we done to foster independence and foster the skills that they need to prevent that in the future?
All great stuff. Jack, I want to ask you that he mentioned a little bit ago that he would work with what you all do to help kids in this type of situation. So what is it that you do, and how would that help?
Yeah, so I think one of the reasons that we got this grant is that Lighthouse and the community are really well positioned to continue this work. So we have a number of projects really actively working on ending youth homelessness. One of the projects that I work with right now is a federally funded grant through Health and Human Services that's working to eliminate homelessness for youth aging out of foster care. So that's one of the big populations.
That's a big issue.
About 1 in 4 youth who age out of foster care will become homeless by the time they're 21.
And to make it clear, why is that?
Lack of services when they're younger, they age out of care, so essentially they hit their 18th or their 21st birthday and they lose these services that they've come to rely on and haven't gained enough self-sufficiency to be independent.
I think some people at home would probably wonder, so are the people that they were in their foster home with saying, get out, you're 18 now? It sounds harsh. Is that what's happening?
That's not always the case, and in fact a lot of our young people are entering care when they're teenagers, and most of the teenagers are not placed in traditional foster homes. A lot of people think about foster care as being placed in a family and you'll age out in that family, but a lot of times these teenagers are actually aging out into group homes or independent living, so subsidized apartments. So when they age out, there's not that loving and supportive family there to support them.
Well, let me just interrupt for a moment, because there is obviously so much to talk about here that we're going to continue our conversation about poverty in our area in just a moment.